Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live. So my name is Zaina Dar, and I'm the events content producer at Salesforce Ben, and I'm thrilled to be your host for today's event. So today we're going to delve into the essential strategies and processes that you need to have in place to ensure success as you integrate AI into your Salesforce platform. But first, let's address a common misconception about AI. It's not magic. So without a strong foundation, including robust processes and top quality data, you're setting yourself up for failure. So in today's session, we'll explore the importance of having a rock solid foundation and provide actionable tips for optimizing your processes. You'll also want to stick around for a live demo at the end, where our panelists will show you how to get your digital house in order. So while we wait for everyone to join, let us know where you're logging in from today. We always love to see what a global audience we have attending. Okay, let's get started. There we go. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I'm really excited to introduce to you Matt, Jared, Sam, and Joseph, who are here with us today to discuss the essential strategies and processes for successful AI integration with Salesforce. So before we get started, just a few house rules. So as this is a webinar, all lines are muted, but don't worry, we'll be having a Q&A at the end for you to ask our panelists any burning questions you may have. So feel free to submit the questions in the comments throughout the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded and will be available on our Salesforce Ben LinkedIn and YouTube channel, just in case you need to drop off or would like to share it with your colleagues. Great, well, I'll hand it over to you guys to take us through the presentation, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A.
Awesome, thank you, Zaina. And I believe we're going to be pulling up some slides here real quick, but good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, wherever you're tuning in from. Really appreciate you joining today, and I'm personally very excited to be talking specifically about this subject today. We hear a ton about AI, of course. It's filling our feeds and our minds constantly these days. But how do we best prepare for that? How do we provide that amazing and functional and actionable insights that AI provides with the actual process data and structure behind it. So I'm happy to introduce myself first here. My name is Jared Tunn. I am the Global Director of Partnerships here at NeoStella. Spent about a decade actually in the financial services world, doing some very, very boring things for a while before getting into the SaaS world and focusing on business development for both Salesforce companies and other companies here over the last few years. So we also have Sam.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Sam Karshenis. I am our Director of Commercial Sales here at NeoStella. I oversee our Work Relay Salesforce ISV product, as well as some of our other automation product lines. And my background comes originally as a technical architect within the Salesforce environment, working with clients on getting them set up in Salesforce, but also being able to maximize that platform once they've been set up. And over time from there, I've shifted from that delivery implementation team over to the sales team, really bringing that technical experience over to our pre-sales process as well. So really excited for the conversation with everyone today. Matt, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Matt Vazdenskis. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at 10K. 10K is a global on-demand Salesforce.com consultancy. I've been around the Salesforce ecosystem since 2006, so definitely a ton of experience and have seen so many different use cases, and we are on certainly this new horizon with AI. Excited to dive into conversation today and talk about our experiences thus far.
And welcome everybody. Thank you for inviting me today to the conversation. My name is Joseph Kuban. I'm a Salesforce MVP and technical architect at Astound Commerce. I've been in the ecosystem now about 13 years, but I have a 20 plus year career in data and analytics and AI, having recently authored a book on ChatGPT, was published this December, and other work with mastering data with unique identifiers at iHeartRadio. So I'm very interested in this space, and I hope I can bring practical.
Great.
That topic is important to you.
Great. And we also want to thank Zaina and the entire Salesforce Ben team for helping to put on this webinar for us here today. And just a brief minute I'll take here about Neostella ourselves. So Neostella, we are an enterprise technology provider. Our headquarters is here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but we do have a global footprint that we use to work with our clients. Within Neostella, we do a few different product lines. The first one being our business process management, Salesforce ISV tool, that is Work Relay. And this was an acquisition made by Neostella about 1.5 years ago. And bringing in Work Relay really is an established ISV application with over 10 years of experience delivering products to clients and really having a great impact. We had partnered and worked with them for much time and really saw the value of bringing them into our product offering here as well. So with that, Work Relay is a top-rated business process management tool on the App Exchange, fully native and available within there for your Salesforce org, and can really help clients of all sizes. We have some organizations that are 5 to 10 Salesforce users, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies that have hundreds of Salesforce users. So it can really benefit across the spectrum there. And with that, we touched on our business process management tool at Neostella. We also do a lot around automation application integration. You can see as we go through this conversation here, a lot of similarities between AI and automation and how to best maximize that for your organization. And now to really dive into AI. And the starting point that we want to take is really, what is AI? AI is something that we all can't get away from. It really is that current transformative technology for enterprises that is that next thing. And it really is that item that folks are saying, if you're not ahead of the curve, you're going to be behind it. And that's really, as we have this conversation, it really is a very good spot right now, we feel, where folks are able to really put themselves in a position to maximize that AI capability within their organization there. And some of these pieces here you'll see are technologies that have been around for some time. I'll touch on interactive AI here as an example. That's something that's been around for a long time, provided value with chatbots and other types of interfaces. But now it's really been enhanced and improved over time. And we now have great capabilities like generative AI. We're all familiar and have heard of ChatGPT and other tools that are out there for this. So really, there's a spectrum of capabilities there, and this is just what we know today. As we can imagine, everyday innovations are coming. We're continuing to enhance these tools, and there will be those next forms of AI that come out for organizations as we go forward. And I want to open the floor and really allow the group to touch on what they've seen from the AI perspective there within some of these different the areas with their clients and in the industry.
Thank you, Sam. One of the items that jumps out is something that we see in our everyday life. It's a long-standing use case, right? If people are familiar and have, smartphones and music apps like Spotify or iTunes, you'll see that you often get custom playlists and song recommendations. That's analytical AI in practical everyday use in your home or in your life. It's trending or tracking what you like to listen to, how you listen, what artists jump out, and it tries to bring you familiarity with new artists that match those same recommendations.
Absolutely. And another one I'll touch on here, visual AI. We've done a lot of work with clients, and this is an area where we look at things such as pulling data off images or also documents is a very common spot where technology has really improved over time to allow for that extraction and then take that data to another system and see how we want it to integrate and bring value to the organization there. So another very common one we've seen in enterprise is that visual AI piece as well.
Matt, I've got a question for you because I love your perspective as an integrator, as a consultant. In my perspective, it seems like there's still such a wide breadth of understanding of what is AI, what are the various aspects and types of AI. From your perspective with your existing clients or perhaps companies that are coming to you to begin conversations, are you still noticing just this huge gap in people just using AI as this overgeneralized term, or do you think that people's knowledge is starting to get a little bit more detailed and impactful as to what AI actually can mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just where we're currently at in the overall life cycle of AI, we are still very early in that life cycle. So I see more of the type of person or consumer that doesn't quite understand AI perfectly yet. Zaina mentioned early on, as she was doing an introduction, she used the word, like, a lot of people just think of AI as this magic thing that I can just ask it questions and it's it's omniscient and is going to be able to provide highly reliable, consistent answers. And yeah, sure, there are use cases or demos that we've seen where that is the case, but what I've seen in consulting here recently is that there really is sort of a lack of understanding of even some basic differences between running a database query and getting a result versus asking AI to generate some trend analysis, things along those lines that are more sophisticated, and really struggling to understand, like, where are the lines between more traditional application and database queries versus tapping into AI as a source of information.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that just as well with our automation side of the business. We have so many times where Sam and I have had to just spend time describing the differences between things like machine learning and generative AI, and noting those differences because some subtle, some not so. So it's definitely, it feels like there's a long way to go just with setting expectations appropriately, just with the greater audience.
I think that the challenge is the expectations are being set from multiple directions. They're being set by companies that want to sell AI. They're being set by consultancies that want to sell AI services. And they're also being influenced by the mass media as a whole, right? Are they getting their AI information from CNN and what they take away from that? So it's a balancing of the different inputs and experiences.
Absolutely. And these common states is, again, it's a wide spectrum of where are people today. I personally think back to my time before working for SaaS companies, working for large financial institutions, and thinking about the leadership I had at those companies and what our internal systems and tech stack looked like. I'd be horrified thinking of those types of people being, at the forefront of an investment into AI. That's just some anecdotal evidence I personally have, but especially you, Joseph, and Madam and Sam, I'm sure you've seen plenty of different ranges of types of current states.
In the incomplete data space, we have to manage what companies have built in regards to technical debt during their implementations, right? They want to build a chat bot. Do they want to build a chat bot that requires a user to log in first or not? Because if they require enrollment, does it keep them from using the chat bot? Or do they create the enrollment when they're coming in and using a chat form? Did they create it with the same user ID in which they made their purchase? So on and so forth. So if you can begin to have that immediate misalignment and the incomplete data simply because of the user experience you're trying to craft in your implementation. So you have to weigh all of that. And I think that part of the pieces we'll get into throughout this webinar is that incomplete data and how you do prepare for a solution that sets you up for success with the AI downstream.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ones, you touched on technical debt there. I'll also touch on something that they call process debt. And that really touches on that disorganized handoff between those humans and technology piece right there. And the idea of really being that as we look at it, we can set up a process, we can understand that process, and we can automate pieces of it. But to really get that full efficiency, what we've seen is it really has to be an organized system between the technology and the humans, where you can see whose responsibilities are which piece, and when things are delayed or behind, or what is causing it. And really making that a seamless experience for the teams can drive those outcomes that you're looking for with AI.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even when a use case, a really solid AI use case, is defined or identified by a business leader, I've seen that when we dig into the details to try to determine, okay, how do we train a model to feed to that use case, we're often finding that there is that disconnected process data. So we're seeing, really the data we need to answer the types of questions that users are expecting AI to be able to answer is distributed across, different systems, sitting in email inboxes and siloed spreadsheets. One example that just to drive this home a little bit, we've heard of a need to really be able to use AI to predict cycle time in processes. So, for example, like how long does it take for our organization to complete a process once a work order is approved by a customer? And so, while that sounds like a fairly straightforward ask, we feed AI, a good set of training data and a large volume of that data, we should be able to get, a consistently reliable and accurate answer. But in reality, if that process is disparate and disconnected, if the work order approval, which is the starting point for that question, if that's not organized as a structured or formalized step in the process and captured in a centralized and consistent way, AI is not going to be able to consistently predict an accurate cycle time. So even if we connect it to your email inbox, the form of that approval is coming in so many different ways. And that's where that sort of, Joseph, to your point of, setting expectations, like what can AI do? You can't just connect it to a multitude of systems and expect it to work magic and it'll provide responses, but consistent and reliable and accurate responses that we're going to drive business decisions on. That's another thing.
And when we continue to talk about technical debt specifically in a Salesforce sense, one thing that we like to focus on a lot in our conversations with partners and clients is about organizing your objects, right? Because I was just tuning into a LinkedIn Live the other week with Elements Cloud, and they showed some research that they personally conducted, looking at over 21,000 different orgs, excuse me, where they showed that the average number of fields on a standard object was well into the 70s, on average. So there's some very, very large, complex orgs mucking up that mean, right? So just thinking about the level of complexity that we build into, our Salesforce instances, when so often it's obviously, years of work compiled on top of one another, or it might be, different consultants taking over, it might be different admins that have, built things over the years. Having that structured, standardized, scalable processes and the data that goes along with it is such a key component to understanding and maximizing the value out of it before even thinking the word AI, right?
I have inherited an org where we pushed the limit and ran right up to the 500 allowable fields on an object. So if people are wondering if 70 is possible, I've seen high 400s.
I think I shivered a little bit. Right, and we're not immune. This mirrors any technology investment, right? When things don't go according to plan, when there's poor planning, poor thought processes, poorly defined goals and outcomes, and you don't have the requisite pre-work, I guess I'll phrase it, whether it be implementing a CRM or implementing, AI on top of it. There's going to be drastic consequences when companies, especially large organizations, are diving into these types of projects and funding these types of projects without doing their due diligence beforehand. I'm sure several of you have seen this firsthand in your careers.
Yeah, I would ultimately say from an implementation perspective that foundation that you set with regards to your total cost of ownership, what trade-offs are you going to make by Do you want to implement fast? What's going to be the cost of that? Do you not want to change Do you not want to change process in your implementation, which requires a lot of then customization or code in your process, right? Whether those things are as simple as connecting a dialer for a campaign object to make automated calls, or if that's wanting to understand loyalty and regular purchasing, right? You have to manage what's it worth to clean up the data now, what's it worth to clean up the process now, and what would be the impact of this project if you don't do the foundational things, the maintenance things that you should be working on. It's running the business versus changing the business. And I think that ultimately a group wants to manage in an iterative or cloud environment with Salesforce time to value. When can I begin to see the return on AI? What will it do for reducing costs? What will it do for increasing sales? And foundationally, you might not have invested for the last 10 years to get your org ready for the AI revolution.
Yeah. And the last piece I'll touch on here, just around that excessive cost, I think this is a critical one. As Jared mentioned, these could apply to all technologies, but really as you look at something like AI, having that foundation in place and doing the work to get your org in the right spot really can drive down those costs, alternative to a consultant coming in and doing a lot of that work. So a lot of the things we'll talk about really can help to set you up for success as you move forward.
So this is another one where, again, we are experiencing some level and probably some stage of this, and many clients are too. Matt, I know that we were talking previously about some use cases where you had personally run into how this type of situation directly affects an investment into AI.
Yeah. So I'll talk quickly about a simple use case that just speaks to, you can have everything organized and a good game plan, and you feel like you've got a rock solid prompt and all of that, and something falls apart when it gets into users' hands because of the lack of team coordination. So just kind of calling out one of those points. We did a simple implementation where we really just took an input from a software business analyst that would write a user story. Right. So these are the tech specs of what we're going to have our developer team develop, and then we want to hand this off to AI and just really summarize a nice, concise release note. And so we worked with the customer on this. Ended up, really refining what we thought was a great prompt based on our testing and based on some UAT. And when we launched it into the wild, we found that, all these product managers and business analysts are writing user stories in completely different ways with completely different levels of detail or very little detail. And so again, in this case, the technology didn't fail. It was sort of the lack of our ability to coordinate the team in a really solid way, so that we were dealing with consistent inputs. And that just goes to show that you can have all the rest of this right, but if one piece is wrong, it can really amplify a poor result.
Absolutely.
I'll say that there's one thing that everybody on this call, I can say it with absolute certainty, everybody on this call, from the poor data quality perspective, duplicates, right? The bane of our existence. You can't get good customer information if you have duplicate customer records. How can you really understand what customers where are buying what if your profile, the management of your data quality in the customer space, allows for duplicates?
Mm-hmm. And it's not to say, right, that organizations today aren't recognizing and trying to address this, right? I think I saw that Data Cloud is now the fastest growing product in Salesforce's history. And that is obviously specifically trying to address a few parts of these disparate pieces. But there's still, what about that process, that unit of work level data? It's great that we've got all our customer data and we're bringing in all these data from third-party systems and these various data lakes. But what about when we need that task level data that's actually showing and highlighting the individual steps that your humans and systems are taking? That's something that we like to focus on a lot here, because it gets us to this next slide. All right, Sam, where we have a tool like Data Cloud, which is ingesting everything from the sources that we have today, but we also have something like a tool like Work Relay that is then actually capturing and identifying and analyzing that unit of work level of data, which we'll get into here in a second, I know, in your demo. But it's really, really important to think about not only just how do we get all of our disparate sources of data into a singular system or to a singular dashboard, but how are we collecting data that we may not have today? So that's something I want people to think about.
Yeah, and I always like to use the analogy when speaking with clients, and it's really about building the right size foundation for the structure you want above it. And the idea here being, if you're looking to build a skyscraper, you have a very different foundation you're going to put in place than if you're looking to put a 2-car garage in your backyard. And that's really, as we start to look at it, I always like to have folks think not just their immediate plans, but their long-term plans. If you're looking to build a 2-story parking garage, but then over time want to put a skyscraper on top, we should account for that from day one, really in that foundation. So I'm really curious also from the folks who are listening, if people can throw a 1 to 10 rating, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, of where do you feel your current Salesforce org is in some of these areas to be prepared for AI as you continue to grow and incorporate those technologies within there as well.
Yeah, great question. So I got a little quick story here I want to tell right before you pull that demo up, Sam. What if we told you that one of the largest consumer goods packaging companies on earth was able to reduce one of their critical product development processes from 120 days to 15 days? And they've now set themselves up for further reduced time and efficiencies and cost savings by knowing exactly where process automation and AI can make the most logical and fiscal sense. So, with this product use case, imagine there's a new Halloween theme of their products coming out. In order for all their e-commerce partners to have the data they required, for the new versions to be hosted, this was a complex workflow that bounced between numerous stakeholders on various brand teams for multiple business lines. So one of the largest companies on earth needs to address a high level of efficiencies. And the biggest difference that they made so far to date was not with AI, was not with process automation, but it was looking at the actual root structure and how they manage processes and how they create them to be very scalable and efficient and standardized. Because if you don't, right, you could have bad data, you're going to have incomplete data, you're not getting the full picture, you're going to get poor recommendations, you're going to get poor decisions by the large language models and other AI that you're using. So think about how all of those initial steps and those foundational steps and the importance that made for a Fortune 100 when looking at this topic specifically.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to transition over and I'm going to show quickly a demo of Work Relay in action. And the idea here is Work Relay is a business process management tool. It's not only geared towards AI or automation, but really the goal here is standardizing your human processes, these complex processes that can often touch multiple different departments, have a lot of different ownership, but really have one goal, having a due date, and really making sure that we execute efficiently there. As we look at Work Relay, I always like to say, how can we ensure the right person is doing the right work at the right time? And what we'll see here is we're here on an example record. In this case here, we're on an order object, but this really could be any standard or custom object. And the idea here is we want to incorporate the process for the individuals who are working through it. So we'll see here, we're going to be working on a post-close process. An opportunity has been closed won, and what's needed after that. This is an area where most folks in Salesforce are using Sales Cloud for those opportunities, but then what happens after that? And there's really a disconnect there. Idea here being, as we take a look, we'll see our process. First, we're going to enter those project details. We're then going to move to invoicing the client, storing the contract, selecting a project manager, scheduling the project kickoff, creating that project plan, and then sending the client that kickoff email. As we take a look at this, by driving this process, we can very clearly lay out the different steps that are involved. We can have conditional logic that has different ways that we go. But the great thing here, as we tie this back to AI, is we can now start to incorporate AI steps and automation steps within this process. We could take a look at an example, and as we progress through, we may say that selecting our project manager is actually something that we think AI is capable of if we provide with those project details and the allocation details of the project managers. Another area could be something here with sending a client kickoff email. This could be a step that AI gathers the data provided in the previous steps and then is able to have an AI element to take care of that for you. Another area I'll point out here that we see a lot of customers working with us for AI is that AI can do a lot of great things, but at this point right now, most folks view AI as more of that hybrid approach. Having AI maybe draft an email, and then what we can do is we can incorporate a step after that where a human may review it, validate, make edits, and then have that sent off. So this really ties in that human bot AI type of integration together for it all to be on the same spot. The other great piece here is we really have that standardized structured data. By driving this consistent process and having this data stored back to our object and our fields, we really can bring in all that operational data that the accounting, legal, operations teams are doing, bring it all into Salesforce, and now allowing for that element of AI above it to utilize all of that data that's present there. So going back to Jared's point, we have a fairly friendly looking page here, maybe about 20, 25 fields on it. But as we start to get to 75, 100, or even Joseph's example of 500 fields on the object, it starts to become a challenge for those individuals who are doing the work to know exactly which fields to fill in at what stage and having that available for AI. So really looking here for Work Relay to be an opportunity to help standardize that within different organizations. And that's really the view of someone who's using our system. We also want to give a quick view here where you can actually see a look at our development environment for Work Relay. This is a drag and drop interface meant to resemble Visio or Lucid charts to really allow your business team to define their process, specify those pieces, and then have us translated here within Work Relay. Goal here, very simple interface for an admin to be able to utilize, build these processes and execute them. And really, as we look at it, we're talking about those complex processes. These could be processes that have different steps that may be in sequence or in parallel. We may have certain cases where we want to have different due dates for different items. We may even have the complexity where we want to have different sub-processes. And I'll show here, we actually have a step here. We're creating our project plan, kicks off a sub-process for us. And this is going to have various different steps and responsibilities within that to really allow us to organize this large, complex process that in this case here is touching our accounting, legal, operations, and operations leadership team, but I think expand to encapsulate much more than that. I'll also quickly touch on here, you'll see a lot of these are going to be manual steps. These blue are manual, but we also can show how we can have some of these as automatic steps. We talked about that project manager selection or that client email being automated, having an AI bot or different automation or integration capabilities handle that. Those are all ways that you can enhance that process and give your humans a lot better experience as they're working through it. And just a few more points I'll quickly touch on here. As we look at this, we've now collected a lot of data. We have a lot available to us. We have that standardized structured data available, but let's also provide that visibility as well. And here you can see one of our dashboards available where someone could come, take a look within here, and they can now work through and observe what the status is of each of those pieces. They can get a high level status here. They can also click into those individual items and get the full details available from that individual who's working on it. So the goal here being we want to standardize the process for the workers. We want to make a very easy interface for an admin rather than creating a lot of flows and different elements. We can have it all within Work Relay. And then we want to provide that top level visibility as well for that leadership team. An example here could be automation is maybe handling one of these steps. We're able to clearly see here, AI is handling one of these steps. We can clearly see here where the human and the AI are taking over those elements. So really a lot of value here a tool like Work Relay and other third-party applications on the Salesforce App Exchange can provide to really help you guys as you're in the stages of wanting to prepare and get AI into your organization. A lot of these pieces that can help set that foundation for you as you're going down that path.
Sam, that's awesome. And I would just tie back to help drive the point home. Imagine a customers prior to coming to Work Relay. They are, each of those steps is happening sort of in different locations. So, the first step is getting kicked off via email, and then maybe some of that, follow up is, or the next steps in the process are happening in Salesforce. But then an approval is being acquired in Slack. And so you have all these, and then something else is being managed in a spreadsheet. I think what's really impressive about Work Relay is the ability to really bring that all together in a single unified workflow-driven environment. And so certainly there are process benefits and efficiencies to that, but you can also see where bringing all that together based on our conversation here can really set you up for success with AI as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, Joseph, you're muted. I can see those lips moving though.
Yeah, the togetherness that Matt mentions, spans organizations, right? If you think about, as your organization and what teams work together, and you build an app for marketing, you build an app for sales, you build an app for service, but they're all touching the client, right? They're bringing the client in, they're bringing your customer in, they're selling to your customer, they're servicing your customer. You want the 360-degree view. Everybody, that's the big buzzword, right? The 360-degree view of the customer. Work Relay helps you with a 360-degree view of the end-to-end piece of your process.
We might have to reuse that, Joseph. That's pretty good there. And
copyright on 2024.
Your royalties will be in the middle. No, but one thing for me, because I am not a developer, I'm not an engineer. I was an accountant, right? I am not a very technical person, but a lot of us are very familiar with the concept of building workflow diagrams, process diagrams. So to take it, especially in a format where so many of us are used to, Visio, Lucidchart type tools, to just take that concept and then immediately translate it within the Salesforce interface to these actionable processes is just huge for me, because someone like me can hop in to the process builder and start actually making some meaningful contributions to how we manage processes internally. Someone should definitely be checking my work. Let's not be let's not think otherwise. But the way that you are empowering not only admins but BAs and accidental admins and others to utilize this tool to a very actionable way is powerful.
Absolutely. So really, as you're looking at your organizations, and again, really hoping to see some of those comments of 1 to 10, and I'll look back here after the webinar, curious where everyone is on that note. But really, as we're looking at this, that there are some items as you take back to your organization to really help you get set up for AI as you go forward. Have you identified these critical business processes in an organization and have a good understanding of what steps your teams are taking? Do you have that visibility into what your teams are doing from an AI and a human standpoint? Do you have those capabilities today? And then are you able to have those insights and metrics? That's one of the things that we didn't touch on fully here with Work Relay, but a ton of metrics and insights are available and come out of the platform that really allow you to be able to take that and understand what's going on, but take actionable steps from there. And the idea here really being, how can we help improve your efficiency of your business processes? As Jared mentioned, we have cases where we've decreased it by close to 80-90%. But even if we take a conservative number, if we can help drive a 50% reduction in that processing time and help set your organization up for AI in the future, what would that business impact be? Is there that value for your organization where, once again, are we ahead of the curve? Or are we going to end up behind the curve is really something that's critical to think about from there. And from here, we wanted to open up a Q&A. I know there's some questions that were posted in the group. We can start discussing. I saw Dana join us to help us with some of those questions.
Hey, everybody. So thanks so much for that really insightful presentation, guys. Hopefully everyone attending now feels much better equipped to navigate the complexities of AI integration within their Salesforce platforms. So without further ado, it's now time for our Q&A. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to submit them in the comments below, and we'll try to get around to as many as possible. Okay, so let's just remove this. Okay. So when can AI help be my data janitor due to poor data quality? Haven't seen anything like that yet. So far, you still need someone to comb through everything to validate for data quality to get ready for AI.
Yeah, that's a great question right there. And I think in some cases, the challenge can be that really a human element can be required. Can AI do a lot of that initial upfront review and maybe provide suggestions for a human? Absolutely. And I think some of those capabilities do exist today to more show where those holes exist, but really is where it requires some level of involvement from the team, or having a system in place where that information is known, where to pull it from to get there. So from what I've seen today, that's what I've observed. But as we know, AI is changing so quick every day, so that answer may be obsolete here in 1 or 2 hours, depending on what comes out there.
Fab, thank you. Okay. So could you let me know if Prompt Builder for Salesforce email is supported on Service Cloud?
Interesting. Chelsea, may I answer?
At TDX 24, I do believe I saw some Service Cloud oriented trails that help you with creating templates for emails and interacting on service as well. It's look at service intelligence, hashtag safe harbor, but look to the service intelligence space in the Salesforce product to learn more there.
Cool, thank you. So can this be used with Prediction Builder and Next Best Actions?
Yeah, and what I'm anticipating is that question specifically around Work Relay. And really the great thing here from a Work Relay perspective is because we are fully Salesforce native, we can leverage all the underlying capabilities of Salesforce. We can have the permission sets, the roles, responsibilities, profiles, all of that can get leveraged directly within Work Relay, as well as integrating with other offerings from Salesforce that can be very easy to set up as actions within our systems. And I know, Justin, we've had some opportunities to chat a little bit about a few different things. So great to see you there again, but would love to kind of dive in on that specific question and see how we can really integrate the best with those capabilities.
I would also add that sort of at its core, Work Relay sort of eliminates the guesswork for what is the next best action. The next best action is really codified in the process that's designed and developed so that things are going really the way that you want them to go.
It's tough to do the wrong action when you're being specifically told exactly what that next action needs to be.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. So what version of Work Relay are we using here? Is it 7.5 or later?
Yeah, great question. That this was our 7.5 functionality that you're seeing here. We've introduced some very cool features that we actually didn't show off here on this webinar, but would love to show you on a follow-up session. We've introduced some great pieces with our process wizard that can really help jumpstart the process building and do a lot of those first few steps for you to have that process laid out. We've also introduced some great impactful metrics as well from an individual step perspective. You can see how often they were started, how often they were late, how many escalations or reminders were needed, and really using those metrics to improve that process over time. I like to say to a lot of our clients, we really want to start off with the mindset of process standardization. How do we standardize what we have today? But the idea from there being, how do we then shift over into process improvement or process enhancement or process optimization? And a lot of those metrics can come from that. So great question there. This is our newest release here. And a lot of those pieces we're introducing are really to help our users with those elements there.
Great. So how would you compare Salesforce Einstein AI/GPT and the actual available LLMs today?
Joseph, I think this is one that you give some great insight on.
Great question. So I'm going to say it politically. Great question. Thank you for asking on the webinar. So ultimately, Salesforce is trying to bring about tools for you that interact and connect directly to your Salesforce org and make those processes or that implementation and that coding better in a secure, trusted way with your environment. Their prompt builders, their tools are going to help you create customized items that merge with your fields and your data. If you've seen any of the tools that become more readily available since Trailblazer DX at the beginning of the month. However, it would be remiss to say like OpenAI and ChatGPT is further along on the curve. They've been doing it for a year, right? Salesforce, little bit further behind from them getting started, but they're making advancements in the space specific to your org. So you could take and use regular ChatGPT to write or craft prompts, but ChatGPT or any AI tool is not meant to be a replacement of the person or your due diligence in taking out Apex or flow steps or flow configuration and reviewing it yourself. So I would caution you in the area, but do explore both spaces.
I'd also say it's sort of the differentiator, or the promise that Salesforce brings is, the ability to train a model on your org's Salesforce data, your process data, your customer data, all those interactions and engagements in a secure manner versus, and within the Salesforce environment versus having to port that data out to a third-party warehouse or system, and then sort of tap then another party such as OpenAI into that. So I think depending on what you're trying to accomplish, I've seen great things with Tableau Copilot and just its ability to sort of the holy grail, in my opinion, from a business user perspective, is to not have to run a report anymore, but instead be able to ask a question and get a reliable answer based on the data that securely resides in your org. And so I think Salesforce has just a, sort of a natural competitive advantage in that sense. The technology itself and its, how it compares with other, with other language models, that's a different type of debate. But I think naturally access to your org's data is truly a holy grail for AI.
Thank you. So how can organizations effectively leverage AI within their Salesforce instance to enhance customer experience and drive business growth?
Yeah, there are a ton of great AI capabilities that are out there. Some of them native on the App Exchange, some of them that you can integrate through third-party pieces. But it really, a lot of it does come down to, we always like to lead folks to think of it first from a business process standpoint. What is your business needs? Where are the areas that you have your most critical processes? A process that if the time is reduced by 50%, you'll have a huge impact to your business. Those are great areas where you should start to look for the capabilities of AI and how it can start to assist, and you can leverage that technology for some of those pieces. I know some of the areas I've seen very commonly being used right now from clients are things like that predictive analysis, maybe looking at a history of a client and their orders and what exists, and understanding what can really be done, what can be suggested to an account executive or the sales team from there, but also a lot of value in some of those, I'll call them cold outreaches and things of that sort, where leveraging some of those AI tools to maybe start providing a structure for someone where that human can then come in, provide that human element, and really make it something that someone would like to receive. So those are some of the areas that we've seen, at least from a capability standpoint. I'm curious from others. I know, Joseph, you mentioned some great ones that some tools have incorporated into their product offerings, such as Spotify and others, but curious what else the group has seen.
I know Ring Central is beginning to incorporate it in their dialer.
Yeah, so ton of different areas, and again, every organization, every industry, every department even will have different needs and wants. But really is finding a good defining that good process up front and then making a clear understanding of where AI plays a role within that, I think that can be the best way to set folks up to success as they're starting to grow their AI program over time.
Cool. So what are some ways to drive down the cost of AI implementation for a company?
And I'd love to just start this. I saw Matt, you came off, so you can touch on it after. But a key piece, as I mentioned earlier, it is that cost around AI. It is an investment, and it is an investment that's looking forward as well, where it may not provide you that immediate day one return on investment, but it can create a massive business case for you as you start to look years 1, 2, 3, and even down the line from there. But really, the biggest pieces that we've seen on that end really are having a well-defined, standardized process that can feed that structured data to an AI. If there's some unknown elements, we're not sure who's doing what work, and there's different steps we take each time, everyone likes to fill in their data differently, that can become a huge challenge for the AI that we see available today and drive costs up.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think there's a tendency to go and tackle some of a business's biggest problems with AI right off the bat. I would certainly recommend, especially as you're getting started, to start with simpler use cases, sort of low-hanging fruit that may be out there in the business where you can implement, give a quick win, start to build some confidence in the organization and some of the capabilities of AI before you move into more advanced, complex implementations, which certainly the risk of high cost is much higher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So what are some key considerations organizations should keep in mind when integrating AI capabilities into Salesforce, particularly regarding data quality and process optimization?
So you need to do preparation all around with regards to your processes, your data. You have to educate the team, manage expectations. Ultimately, if you don't set up or prepare your AI environment, your AI space with some governance, you're going to end up with challenges. There's a thought that I have a blog post on this a couple weeks back, I think pre Trailblazer DX. Is AI wrong? The people think your AI is wrong. It gave you bad information, and there are elements around that. Are you using the free version? Are you using the paid version? How have you set that up right? Do you understand what the custom instructions are? Do you know what a custom brief is? All of these are elements for understanding how to use the AI. If you just sit right down and bang out a prompt and suddenly it gives you the wrong answer and you think, well, the AI is wrong, the AI is bad, I'm going to get no value, then you haven't done your homework, you haven't set it up correctly, right? You have to do that preparation. So I think coordinating with your team on those resources is important.
Yeah, agree on that. I haven't found an exact standardized title for this role yet, but I think something we've seen with some of our clients that can be very impactful is having someone internally that we'll consider to be the AI leader, someone who's really in that day-to-day, living that, observing, and really owning that element of it. It's not a piece where you can just flip AI on, as Zaina mentioned. It's not magic and it's going to take over everything for you. It really is one of those pieces where it requires someone to be with the process, understanding what the AI is doing, and be able to guide it or lead it, just like you would want to do with any employee within your organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what are some best practices for organizations looking to implement AI-driven insights and predictive analytics within their Salesforce?
I'll start off. One of the first best practice just being that you have that data available and it is in a good state. As we mentioned, Work Relay can be a great tool to help get you there, but there really are a lot of different ways to approach that. And the key there being, you need to make sure that your humans are aware of what needs to get done and what we need them to fill in a consistent manner from there is something I've seen consistently across a lot of organizations.
I'd add you have to balance data validation and data completeness for time in the process. If you an open-ended text field and you allow them to type in and expect more randomness in the answers, if you don't require key data fields, then you can't drive on that. So the data maintenance or data integrity starts way upstream for the AI. That's the best practice. You can't expect the AI to correct foundational problems at the start of the data gathering.
Mm-hmm. And final question for now, can you share examples of the kind of measurable benefits you've seen companies achieve and what lessons others can learn from their AI implementations?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had clients just from an operational perspective. Jared mentioned a client going from 120 days down to about 12 days. That was one of those significant improvements that both came from the standpoint of driving that efficient process and helping others to know what's needed, but also providing technology solutions along the way to really help optimize that. So I know that's one great example there. I'm not sure if any others have examples they've seen of organizations with AI.
There is a Boston University study, and I'm going to be very careful to go ahead and repeat. The study was done by Boston University. I can look for the study. You can find me on LinkedIn or one of the chat groups, and I can find you the study. But this Boston University study indicated that you could see, an organization may see as much as a 40% gain in efficiencies around AI. And I think that I have to recall or reread the study, but if you think about that from what pieces are important to you, where you want to get the lift, if your greatest pain point is your process and you apply this conceptually and you get a 40% gain in efficiency, is that measured in a 40% reduction of cost? Are you a 40% quicker turnaround and closing a sale? I don't know. That's going to be driven by use case, but it depends on what your measure of ROI is and where you're applying the AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've seen it plenty of times too with I know use case that we focus on often is the order fulfillment of services or products, right? And in many cases, we've seen our clients go from, often cases 60, 70% as far as on-time fulfillment, sometimes for luxury brands, which is not a good look when people are paying exorbitant amounts of money for products and then not getting them on time. And we've seen clients go to that 98, 99, 100% order fulfillment on time rates just within months of starting to utilize, some of our tools. And that's before AI even touches it. So the fact that you can make that level of efficiency gain before even mentioning AI can showcase you what then you can make further impact, with.
Great. Well, we are coming up to the hour, so unfortunately that's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much to everyone for attending. We hope you've gained valuable insights into how to effectively prepare your Salesforce platform for AI integration. So feel free to connect with any of our panelists on LinkedIn if you have any further questions. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our panelists for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Before we round up, any final words, guys?
I just have to thank Joseph and Matt and Sam and you, Zaina, for helping host this today. And thank you everyone for joining as well.
Yeah, and appreciate everyone's time today. Really looking to have some conversations coming out of this. So please do connect with us. Would love to hear where you guys are on your AI journey, but also to hear a bit more about how you're utilizing Salesforce today and how we can help bring value to you there. So appreciate everyone's time.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Great. Well, thank you again to everyone for attending, and we hope to see you again for our next webinar soon. Take care, everybody.